My little sister, Karen, has always been fragile. The doctors called it depression, a delicate glass doll that couldn't withstand the slightest shock. Because of her, my entire childhood was lived in whispers. I learned not to laugh too hard, not to cry too much. Even pain had to be quiet. Whenever I slipped, Mom and Dad would take me aside with that familiar look, half sorrow, half duty. "Ava, you're such a good girl," they'd say. "Karen needs peace to get better. You're the strong one, right? Try to be more patient." That day, all I did was knock over a glass of water. The crash of it hitting the floor sent Karen spiraling into one of her fits. And for the first time, my father's hand came down on me. "Can't you be careful?" he shouted. "Are you trying to make her worse?" He shoved me and I stumbled, hitting the corner of the coffee table. Warm liquid began to slide down the side of my face. But nobody looked at me. Everyone rushed to comfort Karen, who was screaming as if the world were ending. I lay there on the cold floor, vision flickering, realizing they didn't see the blood pooling beneath my head. A brain doesn't wait for love or attention. It just bleeds. The wood floor was icy beneath my cheek. My skull pulsed with pain, and I could feel something thick and hot dripping down my neck, seeping into the polished boards. "Can't you be more careful? Are you trying to drive her over the edge?" Dad's words echoed through the ringing in my ears. Karen was on the couch, curled up tight, shrieking. "She did it on purpose. She's trying to kill me. Get her away from me." Mom knelt beside her, stroking her hair, voice trembling with forced calm. "It's all right, sweetheart. Mommy's here. The bad sister's gone now." I tried to lift myself, but the world spun and darkened. "Dad, Mom," I whispered, but my voice was swallowed by the chaos. No one turned. Flashes of memory began to play behind my fading sight. I saw myself running home years ago, waving a perfect report card, heart full of pride. "Mom, look, I got." She snatched the paper from my hand and stuffed it into a drawer. "Ava, don't let your sister see that," she whispered urgently. "You know how jealous she gets." "But it's my first time getting all A's," I said, voice small. "My teacher said I could apply for early admission." Mom sighed, brushing my hair back. "You're strong, Ava. Karen's recovery is a family effort. Can't you let her have this one?" So I nodded and went to my room, hiding my smile under the pillow. The blood beneath me spread wider. My chest rose and fell in uneven gasps. "Mom, it hurts," I choked out, reaching weakly toward her. She turned, face tight with irritation. "Ava, not now. Can't you see your sister's having an episode? We'll talk later." Karen's scream sharpened. "Get her out of here." She grabbed another glass and threw it against the wall. Shards flew like tiny stars. Dad rushed to her side. "It's okay, my little angel," he murmured, voice gentle again. "Daddy's here. The bad one's gone now." My fingers twitched, leaving faint red streaks on the floor. I remembered last month, when a group of girls trapped me in the school bathroom, dumped toilet water over my head, and scrawled insults on my face with lipstick. "Freak. Psycho sister," they laughed. When I got home, Mom wrinkled her nose. "What's that smell? Go clean up before Karen notices. She's sensitive to odors." I cried in silence that night because tears were too noisy for our house. The doctor's warning echoed in my mind like a curse. Any emotional disturbance could endanger Karen's life. Now, the edges of the room were dissolving into black. Dad's voice drifted somewhere above me. "Yes, she's having another episode. We'll take her to the hospital right away." Footsteps hurried past. None of them stopped beside me. "Ava, grab Karen's meds," Mom shouted without even glancing my way. I tried to answer, but my mouth wouldn't move. "Still pretending?" Dad muttered. "Let's see how long this act lasts." My final thought was of the art studio, the smell of paint and sunlight through the tall windows. I had once told my teacher I was quitting. "But you're my most talented student," he'd said, stunned. I had stared at the floor. "The turpentine gives my sister headaches. The doctor says she needs a quiet space." Now, that quiet space was all that remained, swallowing everything. My art, my dreams, and the last bit of life leaking from me. The wail of an ambulance cut through the air, sharp and distant at first, then louder, close enough to rattle the windows. I heard Mom's panicked voice from somewhere far away. "Karen, hold on, sweetheart. The doctors are almost here." Footsteps pounded against the floor. The front door burst open, and a rush of cold air swept through the metallic scent of blood. Where's the patient? A man shouted. Here. Please, my daughter can't take it anymore. Dad's voice trembled with urgency. Please, I begged silently, just one glance. Please see me. The paramedics hurried straight toward the couch. They lifted Karen carefully, her body jerking and trembling, and strapped her to a gurney. No one saw the other girl, the one lying in the corner, bleeding quietly into the floorboards. Head trauma can't wait, I heard one of the paramedics say faintly, his voice fading with the rest of the world. Then everything went black. I thought dying would hurt, but instead, I felt light, as if all the heaviness I'd been carrying for years had finally dissolved. My body was still there, pale and still, surrounded by dark stains on the wood. The room buzzed with motion, Dad hovering over the medics, Mom clutching a bottle of pills, both focused on Karen's every breath. Not one of them looked back. Hurry, the ambulance is outside, Dad barked, voice cracking with panic. Mom paused for a heartbeat at the door. What about Ava? Forget her, he snapped. Karen's the one who matters. She hesitated just long enough for the silence to sting, then ran after him. The door slammed shut. The sound sent our family portrait crashing to the floor. The glass shattered, scattering over the photo where we all smiled stiffly for the camera, Karen in the center, radiant and adored, Mom and Dad beside her. I stood off to the side, half cut out of the frame, like an afterthought. Through the window, I watched the ambulance drive away, its flashing lights washing the street in red and blue. They didn't even realize they'd left me behind forever. A sound buzzed from my room. My phone. I drifted toward it, though I didn't walk. The screen lit up, Mr. Davis, my homeroom teacher. Hello, this is Mr. Davis. Ava wasn't in school today, and she wasn't marked absent. Is she all right? Please call me back. The message ended, and silence filled the space where I used to live. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, falling on my neatly stacked textbooks. I had been planning to stop by the art store after class today. I wouldn't be needing that sketchbook anymore. An invisible current tugged at me, drawing me toward the hospital. In the emergency room, Karen lay sedated, her face soft again. A doctor checked her vitals and said calmly, "She's just distressed. No lasting damage. Let her rest." Mom broke down with relief, burying her face in her hands. Dad pulled her close, whispering, "It's over. She's safe now." I stood right in front of them, wanting to scream until the walls cracked. Look at me. I'm the one who's gone. But my voice no longer belonged to this world. A nurse entered, holding a clipboard. Would you like her admitted for observation? Yes, please, Dad said instantly. Whatever she needs. The nurse jotted down notes. Patient's name is Karen, correct? Yes, she. The nurse interrupted. And what about the other girl? The paramedics mentioned a second injured young woman at the scene. Mom blinked. Oh, you mean Ava? She gave a dismissive wave. She's fine. She probably just scraped herself. She's resting at home. I closed my eyes. They didn't even know I wasn't breathing anymore. Karen stirred on the hospital bed, mumbling weakly. Mom rushed to her side, her hands trembling. Honey, what is it? Where does it hurt? My sister, Karen whispered. She tried to hurt me. Mom stroked her hair gently. No, baby, she didn't. It was just an accident. But Karen's eyes snapped open, wild and terrified. No. She hates me. She said I'm a burden. She said one day she'd kill me. The monitor beside her began to beep wildly. Nurses ran in, shouting for help, as if the room were collapsing under the weight of her words. I stood in the corner, unseen and unheard, watching the same scene play out all over again. My life had always been this, a constant performance around Karen's pain. Karen said you took her doll. Karen said you woke her on purpose. Karen said you put something in her drink. Now, even in death, I was still her villain. Dad's phone rang. He stepped into the hall, his voice shaking. Hello? Yes, this is Mr. Taylor. Detective what? No, that can't be right. His face turned ashen. Are you sure it was our Ava? A pause. Then the detective's cold reply drifted through the static of memory. Preliminary findings confirm the victim is a 16-year-old female. Fatal head trauma. Estimated time of death. 3 hours ago. The deceased has been identified as your eldest daughter, Ava Taylor. Something inside me jolted. Finally, someone had found me. Dad stumbled back into the hospital room, his face drained of color. His phone slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a sharp clatter. Mom looked up, startled. What happened? What's wrong? His lips trembled as he spoke. The police, they said they found a body. In our apartment. Mom blinked, confused. What are you talking about? It's Ava. His voice cracked, the words barely audible. They said she's been gone for at least 3 hours. Mom's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, her face frozen in silent horror. Dad's shaking hands fumbled for the fallen phone. He called home again. The line rang endlessly in an empty apartment that no longer had anyone to answer. It can't be true, he whispered. We have to go. They left Karen behind, forgotten in the hospital bed, and ran through the sterile hallways like people escaping a nightmare. When they reached the apartment building, yellow police tape sealed off the door. Neighbors stood nearby, murmuring, eyes full of pity and curiosity. Move, Dad barked, forcing his way through the crowd. That's our home. An officer stepped forward. Sir, ma'am, are you the parents of Ava Taylor? Mom seized his arm, wild-eyed. Where's my daughter? Tell me where she is. The officer's expression softened. I'm sorry. We received a complaint from a neighbor about water leaking through the ceiling. When officers entered, they discovered your daughter in the living room. On the floor lay a black body bag. My face, pale and still, was the only part left uncovered. Mom's scream shattered the silence. She dropped to her knees, reaching for me, her fingertips grazing my cold skin before she recoiled as if burned. She's so cold, she whispered, her voice hollow. Why is she so cold? Dad just stared, unblinking. His gaze moved from the pool of dried blood to the corner of the table, where a few strands of my hair clung to the wood. I pushed her, he said numbly. Karen was screaming. I just wanted to calm her down. I didn't realize how hard I'd shoved. The detective turned sharply. Are you saying this wasn't an accident, sir? Mom's head snapped up. No. It wasn't accident. He didn't mean to hurt her. He just panicked. A man from the medical team spoke quietly to the detective. Fractured skull, likely caused by blunt impact. Internal bleeding. Estimated time of death, around 10 in the morning. Mom let out a strangled cry. 10 a.m.? But that's when we were taking Karen to the hospital. Dad staggered, gripping the wall for balance. The truth fell over them like a physical weight. While they'd been saving one child, the other had died alone on the living room floor. The detective's voice was cold and precise. We'll need both of you to come with us for questioning. Based on what we've found, this could fall under negligent homicide. Mom suddenly started to laugh, a sound sharp and brittle, like breaking glass. Questioning? Now you care? Her laughter turned to sobs. Where were you when she came home crying every day? When she was being bullied at school? You all ignored her. Her words pierced me. She knew I was being bullied and she said nothing. Dad turned and ran toward my bedroom. He tore through drawers, scattering notebooks and sketches until he found it, my small diary, edges worn soft with use. His hands shook as he opened the first page. My childish handwriting stretched across it. Karen had another tantrum today. Mom said it was my fault because I got a high score again. I'll try to do worse next time. Tears dripped onto the paper, blurring the ink. He flipped through the pages, each one slicing him deeper. Karen tore my painting. She said the smell gave her headaches. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to cause trouble. The girls at school locked me in the bathroom again. They called me crazy like my sister. I didn't fight back because Mom says noise makes Karen worse. Dad yelled at me today. He said I broke the bowl on purpose to scare Karen. I didn't. Sometimes I wish I were the sick one. Maybe then they'd love me too. Dad dropped the diary, covering his face with trembling hands. The sound that escaped him wasn't quite a sob. It was something deeper, something breaking. And I stood there, unseen, watching them drown in the same silence they'd forced me to live in. The final entry in my diary was dated the day before my death. It contained only one line. I'm exhausted. If I vanished one day, would anyone even notice? Dad's legs gave out beneath him. The diary slipped from his hands and hit the floor with a dull sound. He just stayed there, hunched over, staring blankly ahead. Mom crawled closer, picked it up, and began to read. She didn't make it past the first few pages before she broke down, her sobs filling the entire apartment. What have we done? Dad whispered hoarsely, his voice barely human. The detective standing nearby exchanged a glance with his partner. Mr. Thompson, he said quietly, you're under suspicion for negligent homicide. Please come with us. At the police station, Dad sat motionless under the harsh fluorescent light. The detective slid a folder toward him. According to the forensics report, your daughter suffered a fatal head injury. The blood and hair on the coffee table match her DNA. He paused. Tell me what happened that morning. Dad's voice was barely a rasp. Karen was having one of her episodes. I was so tired, so frustrated. Ava tried to calm her, and I pushed her. I didn't see the table. I didn't know. Does this kind of thing happen often in your home? The detective asked evenly. Dad's head snapped up. No. Of course not. Then, softer, as the words caught in his throat, at least I don't think so. The detective opened another folder. We reviewed Ava's medical history. 6 major bruises, 3 small fractures, 1 concussion. Each time, the hospital reported possible abuse. You and your wife claimed they were accidents. Dad went pale. His hands shook. Images he had long buried resurfaced. The shouting, the chaos, the moments when Ava's injuries always seemed to follow Karen's breakdowns. The detective continued. We also spoke with her teachers. They said she was quiet, diligent, rarely caused trouble. But during the last 6 months, she often came to school hurt, saying she fell. He placed a photo on the table. Ava's arm, marred with purple bruises. This pattern of bullying lasted almost a year. You truly didn't notice. Tears rolled silently down Dad's face. She never told us. The detective's tone hardened. One of her classmates said Ava once remarked, "There's no point telling my parents. They'll just think I'm overreacting." We also found this in her locker. He set down a small pill bottle. The label read, City General Hospital, Department of Psychiatry. Patient, Ava Thompson. Dad picked it up with trembling fingers. Antidepressants. His voice cracked. No, that can't be right. Ava was fine. She was healthy. Healthy, the detective repeated coldly. At the time of her death, she weighed 82 pounds, showed signs of severe malnutrition, and had multiple old scars on her wrists and back. Does that sound healthy to you? Dad's vision blurred. Every small detail he had brushed off replayed in his mind. Her long sleeves in summer, her untouched dinner plates, her faint smiles. The detective leaned back. Now, let's talk about your younger daughter. According to school files, she's been diagnosed with mild depression. So, why was your home environment so extreme? Dad's voice rose in disbelief. That's not true. Karen's condition is serious. Her doctor warned us she could be suicidal. We had to watch her constantly. The detective calmly pushed another paper across the table. This is her latest psychiatric report. It clearly states her condition is stable with treatment. Your older daughter, however. Dad's gaze drifted over the document, stopping at the line. Condition stable. Recommend gradual reduction of supervision. This report was filed last week, the detective said. Neither you nor your wife saw it. Dad shook his head weakly. Dr. Evans always told us Karen was critical, that she needed constant care. Which doctor? Dr. Evans, Dad said quietly. The detective flipped through his notes, his brow furrowing. That's strange. According to hospital records, your younger daughter's psychiatrist is Dr. Wallace. Dr. Evans was assigned to your older daughter, Ava. In that instant, something inside Dad shattered. Before he could speak, the door swung open. A young officer hurried in, her face pale. Sir, there's been an incident at the hospital. The younger girl, Karen, she's regained consciousness and she's... Her eyes darted toward Dad before she leaned in to whisper something to the detective. The detective's expression turned to stone. Mr. Thompson, we need to leave. Right now. Your daughter has just made a confession. At the hospital, Karen sat in a wheelchair, her skin still ghostly pale but her eyes startlingly clear. A nurse wheeled her into a small private room where the detective waited with his notepad ready. Karen, he began, his tone measured. The nurse told us you said something about your sister. Can you repeat it for me? Karen fiddled with the cap of her water bottle, her voice soft and trembling. I don't really know how to say it. You said Ava threatened you. Is that true? She nodded slowly. Yes. She hated me for being sick, for always needing Mom and Dad. She said that if she could, she'd make me disappear. The detective frowned. But our reports suggest your sister often looked after you. She gave up her hobbies, even adjusted her routines to help manage your condition. That was all fake. Karen burst out, her tone laced with conviction. She only acted nice when people were watching. When we were alone, She'd pick fights, brag about her grades, and fill the house with that awful smell from her paint just to make me feel sick. She sniffled, clutching the blanket around her. She even messed with my medication to make me worse. Hovering unseen nearby, I felt a chill run through my incorporeal body. Every word that came out of her mouth twisted reality into something hideous and unrecognizable. The detective's voice hardened. Karen, you understand that accusing your sister of this is very serious. She's gone now. Are you sure you want to tarnish her memory with false claims? Instantly, tears welled in Karen's eyes. She gave a shaky sob. I know I shouldn't speak ill of her, but I was terrified. Sometimes, I really thought she'd kill me if I said anything. She wiped her eyes dramatically. Now that she's gone, I finally feel safe enough to tell the truth. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, unlabeled bottle. She told me these were vitamins to help me get stronger. But I had them tested. They contained traces of sleeping pills. The detective took the bottle, examining it with a grim expression. Just then, the door opened and Dad stepped in, escorted by another officer. Mr. Thompson, the detective said, your daughter has made some serious statements about Ava. I need to confirm a few details. Dad froze. What statements? Karen instantly broke into tears, throwing herself into his arms. Daddy. I was so scared. Ava, he held her tightly. Karen, slow down. What are you saying? Ava hated me, she sobbed. She acted kind around you, but when you weren't home, she hurt me. She used to pinch me, hit me, and force me to take those pills. She said if I ever told you, she'd kill me for real. Dad's face went ashen. His mind filled with the image of Ava's pale body, the blood-stained floor, the diary he had read. A seed of doubt began to grow where certainty had once been. Could they have misunderstood everything? Had Ava really been tormenting Karen all along? Had they been protecting the wrong child? In the following days, Karen's words spread faster than wildfire. She wept in their grandmother's arms, whispering, Grandma, Ava used to choke me in my sleep. She said she wanted to see how long I could go without breathing. She cried to her teacher. She told me if I ever talked about her at school, she'd push me down the stairs. She even performed for the neighbors, her voice trembling perfectly. Ava said once Mom and Dad grew old, she'd throw me out like garbage. Each lie was crafted with precision, every tear perfectly timed. And I, a silent ghost bound to the ruins of my life, could only watch as my name was shredded and rewritten into a monster's story I never lived. I drifted back to the apartment. It was eerily quiet now. Mom sat on the couch, clutching my diary like it was a lifeline, her face torn between grief and doubt. Honey, she said softly as Dad stepped inside, do you think what Karen said might be true? Could Ava really have been hurting her? Dad sank beside her, his hands dragging over his tired face. I don't know anymore, he murmured. The more I think about it, the more I realize there were things that never quite made sense. He stared blankly at the carpet. She always seemed to start something noisy whenever Karen was having one of her episodes. I used to think it was coincidence, but what if it wasn't? Mom shook her head. No, that's not possible. Ava adored her. She was the gentle one, always patient, always helping. But the pills, Lydia, Dad said, his voice cracking. The ones Karen had tested. The lab confirmed they were sleeping pills. How do you explain that? Before Mom could answer, Karen appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were red and swollen, her voice trembling just enough to sound genuine. Mom? Dad? Did I do something wrong by speaking up? I didn't mean to ruin Ava's memory. Mom immediately pulled her into her arms. No, sweetheart, you did the right thing. If Ava really hurt you, we needed to know. But I still miss her, Karen whispered against Mom's shoulder. Even if she scared me sometimes, she could be kind too. Like that time I had a fever, she stayed up all night taking care of me. She sniffled delicately. Maybe she did love me, deep down. Maybe she was just sick in her own way. Those words sealed it. To my parents, her performance sounded heartbreakingly sincere, full of conflicting emotion, just what a victim of abuse might feel. I watched her from the corner, fury rising like ice through my hollow chest. She wasn't fragile or traumatized. Her real sickness was in her heart, that black pit of manipulation she'd hidden behind tears and trembling smiles. She had played everyone perfectly, and I was the price she'd paid for her act. Then the story broke online. A viral headline screamed, "Perfect student exposed," Older sister secretly abused mentally ill sibling. The comments poured in, fast and vicious. I can't believe I used to feel bad for her. These quiet ones are always the worst. That poor younger sister. She's been through so much. What a monster. Karma finally did its job. Karen sat at her computer, scrolling through the flood of sympathy. A faint, satisfied smile tugged at her lips. She opened her social media and typed a new post. Ava, I forgive you. Even though you hurt me, I know you must have loved me deep down. I'll live for both of us now, and I'll carry your memory in my heart. Rest peacefully, sister. The post exploded, thousands of shares, endless praise. She's an angel. Even after everything, she forgives her abuser. This broke me. Such grace and strength. She deserves nothing but happiness after all she's endured. Karen scrolled through every comment, basking in it. It was everything she'd ever wanted. Adoration, pity, attention. My death had become her spotlight. I was gone, and she finally had the world to herself. But then, her expression faltered. A new comment had appeared among the flood of praise. Are you sure that's the full story? I was in Ava's class. She never hurt anyone. She was always looking out for her sister. She gave up art because she said the paints triggered Karen's allergies. That doesn't sound like a bully to me. Another followed. I was Ava's art teacher. She was the kindest, most selfless student I ever taught. She quit her class to take care of her sister. That's not abuse. That's love. And another. I live in the same building. I used to see Ava bringing home medicine and food for Karen late at night. That girl was practically her caretaker. Soon, the tide began to turn. If Ava was the abuser, why was she the one who died from a head injury her own father admitted to causing? Karen froze. Her fingers shook as she typed reply after reply, trying to steer the story back in her favor. She posted blurry photos of fake bruises, edited voice clips, and even coaxed a few classmates into backing her lies. But the truth, once it finds a crack, is unstoppable. Like light seeping through the dark, it began to expose everything she had buried. As more people who truly knew me began speaking out, Karen's mask started to crack. 3 months later, everything changed because of an accident. Our neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, was clearing out her storage unit when she found a forgotten security camera she had installed after a break-in. The lens, by coincidence, had a perfect view into our living room window. When the police reviewed the old footage, they were stunned. The video captured the entire incident, with the glass of water. After I accidentally knocked it over, Karen didn't break down immediately. She froze, glanced toward the corner where the old camera had once been, and when she realized it was gone, she composed herself, then threw her head back and started screaming. It had all been a performance. Even worse, earlier recordings showed her cutting her own arm with a shard of glass, pouring paint on her own bedding, and mixing crushed pills into her water to fake evidence. Every proof she had used against me was staged. When the footage went public, the internet exploded with outrage. She faked everything? Poor Ava. She was killed by her own family, and her sister framed her. That's not just mental illness, that's evil. For the first time, the world saw through her lies. Cornered, Karen tried to twist the story again. I was a victim too, she screamed to reporters. Everyone always loved Ava more. I just wanted someone to notice me. I didn't mean for her to die. But the more she spoke, the more people recoiled. Her words only exposed the selfish rot inside her. At home, Dad sat staring at a photo of me, tears streaking his face. Ava, I'm so sorry. I never saw the truth. Mom could barely speak, rocking back and forth, clutching one of my old sweaters. My baby, my sweet girl. Karen saw their grief and finally felt fear. Real, paralyzing fear. She had lost everything. Their love, the public's pity, her illusion of innocence. When they confronted her, Dad whispered, "How could you do this to her, Karen? She gave up everything for you." Karen only laughed, brittle and bitter. Gave up? She didn't do it out of love. She hated me for stealing your attention. I just hated her back. Why is her hatred forgiven and mine isn't? Mom broke down completely. The daughter she once pitted had become a stranger. Karen was sent to juvenile detention. But even there, she didn't change. She lied, manipulated, spread rumors about abuse, destroyed others' things, even hurt herself again, hoping to reclaim the sympathy she'd lost. No one believed her this time. Her greatest weapon, pity, was gone. The other girls avoided her. The staff ignored her pleas. For the first time, Karen tasted real loneliness, the kind I had known for years. And the cruel irony was that now, in true despair, she realized her illness had never been real. It had always been a mask. 6 months later, she ended her life. Her note read, "I was wrong. I was so wrong. Ava, if there's another life, I'll be a real sister to you." But it was far too late. I watched as they carried her body away. I felt no anger, no relief, just emptiness. The rage, the sorrow, the desire for justice had burned away long ago. Yes, the truth had come out. The liar was punished. But none of it mattered. My life, my dreams, my love, all gone. Karen's death didn't bring me peace. It only proved what I already knew. Some wounds never heal, and some losses can't be undone. As the sun sank below the horizon, I felt my soul begin to fade, not because I was content or freed, but because I finally understood. Some pain has no answer. The living keep going. The dead simply drift away.